So it looks like F124 doesn't have very many patches left. We're probably only going to see, I know there's one patch coming with one fix. Other than that, it's probably just going to be those stupid F1 World season updates that hardly anyone bothers with. As well, I personally don't bother. If you do bother with those season updates, let me know why you prefer those to just playing online or just playing career mode. But yes, fundamentals changes that must be made to F125. Obviously, I've mentioned previously that the license is up for renewal, and I made a different video on that earlier, so I'll try and remember to leave an I thing to that video as well in case you haven't seen it. One of the big changes that must be made to the F125 is the AI. The AI, I mean, compared to F123, they're dreadful. The fact that you didn't train them to use ERS properly just shows the way that EI and Codemasters make the F1 game. Do they even have QA testers? I've asked this question before as well. Do they pay somebody to actually play the game and find these bugs? Because I don't think they do. Because otherwise, surely there are fundamental bugs in the game that they would have come across. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But the AI, compared to where they were F123, they changed the ERS mode and then didn't train the AI to use the ERS. So obviously, they didn't use overtake and qualifying. And then obviously, they obviously then just, didn't go into, they don't use none. I'm pretty sure some of them don't use none in the race still as well. They just keep it on medium. So yes, the ERS usage has never been great, but on this year's game, it's a whole lot worse. And the way that they race as well, they just get stuck in the ERS and DRS trains, not being able to overtake. There's no spreading out of the field, like we see in real life. Now, again, I don't particularly mind not seeing so much of a spread of the field. I do think it creates more interesting racing sometimes, but I would like to see the AI try a few more overtakes, and they don't crash anymore as well. Although, stay tuned to my career mode where they do make a few mistakes finally. They had to actually recode that back in as well, because they weren't making any mistakes when the game actually launched. Like the state of the game, when it launches, the game must be as good as it can be. Yes, there'll probably be this F2 season update to follow. That's fine, that's additional content. But the fundamentals, I've talked about the AI, and obviously the way that they race, that must be perfect, otherwise there's going to be issues. And I think, the other thing that really needs to be perfect from launch, the handling model. Like, you launch the handling model, and then 2 weeks after, you completely changed it. As well, and then you've got a whole load of people who prefer the first handling model, some people prefer the second handling model. Yes, what needs to happen, and this is not the first time this has happened on the F1 game, and they changed the handling model halfway through, like time trial leaderboards. Brazil's been reset 3 or 4 times now, as well, due to issues. This cannot happen in the F1 game. It must not be allowed to happen. This can't go on with them, just releasing the game half finished. And I do think that, this isn't just an F1 issue. There are a lot of issues with the gaming industry at the whole at the moment. A lot of games have either been delayed or released in half ready state, as in broken. As well, it's been the past couple of years where we've seen that, and it's a shame for the gaming industry, really. But EA and Codemasters, if you want to lead the way in terms of racing games, then you need to make sure that the racing and the AI are perfect. If they, let them make mistakes like they do in real life. Let them have crashes. with each other like they do in real life. As well, make them more raceable. If someone's going to have a Kevin Magnussen dive bomb at me, let them do that as well. I do feel that they were a lot better in F123 than they were in F124 as well. And obviously I talked about the handling model. It's just, keeping the same handling model allows casual players get used to that handling model and then obviously grow with the game. If you keep chopping and changing it left, right and centre, then it's just going to put people off, because people see the handling model, they say, I was used to that one, I was actually getting used to that, now I've got to spend my time learning again, learning the new handling model, while another game has come out and the casual players have said, I'm not going to spend that time, I'm going to go away. The casual players are what's going to make EA and Codemasters the money that they want for their profit margins. Unfortunately that's the way the game is. There's not enough serious players to actually do that, which is why the number of sales, and again that was the other video that I did talk about the sales not being good enough. Now, apologies for banging on about the AI and handling, but the racing makes up a huge portion of the game. After all, it is where we spend a lot of the time, and the racing on F124 is letting the game down, and it's probably a little bit of a big part of the big contribution that F124 sales are so poor. Now, just to focus on a few other things, career mode, as I said, I will be making a separate video on career mode, but there's just to touch on the likes of woeful driver transfers, R&D needs a refresh, there's whole loads of more cutscenes, interviews need to be added back in, etc, etc. That's just touching the surface. There's so much stuff that needs to be done with career mode. It needs another video on that as well. F1 World, I just think you needed to touch. Is it really worth it? I think the scenarios are actually quite nice as well. Again, I'm going to come back to it, but basically the elimination mode needs to be in from day one. It needs to be permanently in the game, and you need to then start looking at other party games as well, because it's starting to get a little bit old now, the elimination mode, because it's been on and off the past couple of games. But yeah, obviously one of the things that happened in F1 2023 was you could unlock liveries that the teams, and these alternate liveries like we just seen at the US Grand Prix yesterday, where McLaren had their Chrome McLaren livery, for example, and you could unlock that on F123 for the F1 the FOM car. Now, I did say this on F124 Game Ideas, that these should be available in career mode on the McLaren Sashi. After all, they did it for the Ferrari, so they should be able to update these for the McLaren Sashi and then have them available for in your career modes for a limited for a season. You could select that Sashi for McLaren. Even if you're not racing with McLaren, it would be something different to look at than the default Sashi, and especially for console players, so much improvement could be done with that. That's just, as I say, just a little thing that I thought I'd mention there. As I say, I'm going to come back to career mode in another video, and F1 World in another video as well. And then really, well, the graphics, the way the weather looks, it looks dreadful. I'm sorry, the wet weather it's just woeful. Like, it looks better on F1 2011, and that game is 13 years old. Like, the spray, if you're in wet weather conditions, the spray that you got off on F1 2011, where you couldn't see on your screen the car in front, was so more realistic than what we got now. as well. And the wet weather stuff, I'm sorry, it is so bad on the F1 game. That transition from dry to wet, you know, you could be there forever, as well, waiting for a wet period. Even if constant rain, as you'll see in Friday's Driver Career Mode episode, even if you have constant rain in a race, it may never get wet enough to actually have intermediates, as well. You know, the wet weather system is probably one of the worst in any racing game that is currently available. Definitely created in the 2020 since, you know, in this current decade, and you know, we're almost 5 years in. Yes. But yes, that is my rant, really. The graphics, as I said, you know, that we need a new game engine. It's not gonna. We know it's not gonna happen because Lee Mather has already told us they're not looking at a new game engine, which, you know, we all know it needs a new game engine, but they're not going to do it, as well. So, you know, expect F125 to be available on Xbox One and PS4. Because, you know, as I say, the console market has not picked off, has not, you know, kicked on, as well. People are still playing those consoles because developers still keep releasing games for them. It's as simple as that. As long as developers keep releasing games for those consoles, why would you move to the next console? The only reason you're going to move to the next console if your game that you want to play is not available on the old gen console, as well. So yes, I do think that needs to change, but we all know that it's not going to change for F125, as Lee Mather said just before F124 came out as well. But yeah, the way the skies look as well, it looks the same as it did in F1 2016, and I'm sorry. Well, F1 20... No, they've made some changes, I will admit, to the way the skies look, but it just looks dreadful, as well. Especially, I think it's the sunset. That's the one that really annoys me the most. Like, if you go for a light cloud on the sunset, on F1 24... that sky looks exactly the same as it did on F1 2019, which I think was the last sort of big update made to the game engine as well. But yes, and also the way the menus look. Like, the menu design, it's just mediocre, I think, as well. I'm not really sure how the menus should really look. Potentially bring back the paddock style vibes of F1 2010. I would love to see that on it recreated for F1 24, as well as the main menu. I know F1 Life was poor, but that's because it was a sofa simulator. But it had the right idea in trying to bring a menu, with more than just, you know, a generic background. But yes, I've rambled on for too long. I think that, yes, there's more to come in this series, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Career mode, classic cars, DLC, tracks, and F1 World /online. 3 episodes to follow, and then possibly more, depending on what you guys contribute. So please do let me know your game ideas in the comments below. But yes, that's where I'm going to leave it for today's video. Until the next video then, I'll see you next time. Take care, enjoy your day, and goodbye.